From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. Today I have with me my good friend, Mr. Todd Jones. And in his bi-weekly copywriting segment, we're going to talk about humanizing content. Sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I'm here with my bi-weekly co-host, Mr. Todd Jones. How are you, Todd?
Other than the Arkansas pollen, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, well, I can send you some more of that from the Ontario pollen because it's happening.
No.
Today's
It's
actually
really hot.
It's actually overcast, but it's not awful out there. It's actually nice. Spring has sprung finally. So,
Well, it's warm enough. It's fine as far as temperature goes. It's just, I thought 2 weeks ago when we had the one week we had tornadoes, the next week had rain. Thought after all that, it probably did get rid of a lot of pollen, but here we are again. Just now the grass is blooming. So yeah, it's
I
just
hear
one of
you.
those things.
I hear you. So today I thought we'd talk about, or you thought we'd talk about humanizing content. So we're all using AI, or most of us smart marketers are using AI, right? Our shout out to our friend Andy Crestodino, who loves AI. Andy. Yep. And
Yeah.
the hardest part about AI, and I'll tell you this because I've shared some of the stuff I've written lately with my partner just from an interest sake. She says it sounds very businesslike and very to the point oriented. So I think the issue is AI is losing some of that human touch. So where do you want to go with this one?
Well, to start with, to her point, from my understanding, I'm not an LLM expert. I'm not an AI expert. I kind of defer that to stuff. If you want to learn more about there's several places I go actually, but the lady who used to be at Moz, her name is Brittany Mueller, has done a lot of AI. She's got some courses on Maven. I took a webinar early on, and anyway, it's a little bit intuitive to me, some of how to interact with it. So I haven't really paid for courses. There's another guy I follow from the copywriting end of it named Jason Parker. And Jason has partnered with David Garfinkel, the greatest copywriter, copywriter coach on earth, whatever, however he spends himself. And I was on his podcast last year. They have partnered and they do some stuff. So let me just preface this by saying, I have seen and learned some stuff that blow my mind with what you can do even in copywriting. Okay. Yep. Especially in copywriting. But here, what you're getting with AI, and it'll get better because we're technically in the early days of it. It'll get better. But what you're getting with AI is essentially what we would call the median quality, the medium of everybody in that's been put into. So you got the best, and you got the worst, and it's somewhere in the middle. So yes, you get a very business-like, corporate, whatever, unless you tell it to change the tone or whatever. You can do all that stuff, which is fascinating to me. So I find that I have gotten much better at and much more comfortable trying it for smaller pieces of content. So what Jason and some of the people I follow, Nathan and Lily, they showed some stuff a few weeks ago when they're live training. I was like, oh wow. So basically they're writing ads, Facebook ads and stuff like that with it, which, in comparison to a long blog post, like a deep dive blog post, 1,200, 1,500 words or more, it's way shorter. So you can add all this stuff in there, and you can put the information you want in there, the benefits and all the stuff that you do use to make copy. And then you can train it. What Nathan showed was like, well, here's an example of my content, so or the way I write or way I want this written, blah blah blah. So you can do all that stuff. But I think when you talk about a longer piece of content, whether you're writing an ebook or you're writing a long blog post, or you're even writing a book, whatever, it gets difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done. It gets more difficult. And there's a process that we will talk about at a future date, you and I, called chunking. That's what they refer to it. It's a modular version. You basically can tell, I need to write an introduction for this, blah, blah, blah. Those prompts are what I call comprehensive. It's more than one prompt and so forth. But just putting in there, write me a 1,200 or to 1,500 word article about enter the subject. You're not going to be happy with what you get. You may get a pretty well reasoned article. The points may be accurate, and they may not be, because all the AI tools now say double check your information because it's not correct. And actually, I put in our little Slack group today. I said I chastised Gemini because it didn't do what I told it to do. I was creating this little which we'll talk about, I believe, in the next episode. I was creating this little story to create as an antidote to like kind of explain what I'm saying about trust, and I call it the filter of distrust. And it would not. I told it to put filter of distrust, and it put it out, and it said labyrinth of distrust. And I said, no, like literally said no, and he goes, you're right. And then it did it right. I was like, okay. And then a guy I follow on LinkedIn was talking last week. He was trying to do these worksheets based on questions he had already created, and it wouldn't do it the way he kept telling it to do it. And so these tools are great, but they can be fickle. They can give you the wrong information. They can not do what you tell it to do. So when it comes to a longer piece of content, my opinion, and I'm saying this kind of as an open loop, and we'll get back to the topic. And my opinion is just to write it, or throw what I call a data dump of everything you think about this subject in a notepad, and put that in there and ask it to structuralize it. Now, that being said, going back to what Leslie said, and what you're talking about, Leslie, right? It will, even if you tell it, or even if you don't tell it, it will act kind of corporate or business-like, matter of fact. And if you're going to generate content, and I think for an 800-word article, go ahead. I have done this, and I will do it again. I call them lifestyle articles. It's not an educational deal. It's we went to see this. I did it for a client. We went to see this, and here's what we experienced. And she just kind of gives it all to me, and I put it in whatever tool I choose to use and ask it to write me a 600-word article, and it will. I might give it some direction, like make sure it has an introduction and connects it to whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you just leave it up to ChatGPT and do not, and even if you do give it direction to be more human, it's likely not to be human. So you need to sometimes, what people are doing now, because I've heard seen copywriters on LinkedIn say, I'm getting hired essentially to edit content that was created by AI. And that's okay. If you're doing content, you may need an editor to edit your content. So you have to talk about what makes it human. And so I actually asked ChatGPT itself, what makes content more human? And I'll read you the answers. It gave me 9, and I thought it was actually pretty good. And so that tells you that it's getting better, it's evolving, and you could say, make this more human, and it'll probably do this, but some of it is your own, right? Inject personality, that's number 1. You use a conversational terms. You should put that in your prompt anyway, right? Use conversational language, that kind of thing. So AI can be dry, so forth. tell stories. That's one I'm not sure AI can do, but I don't know they can do it in the process of writing an article. I haven't seen that yet. I will do that. So sometimes I have to do that separately from the actual article. Add emotion and empathy. That's number 3. So understand our audience's pain points and emotions, so forth. Sometimes that is something AI can't just pull out. You kind of have to come to the AI with it. Ask questions, which is basically create a dialogue. That's number 4. Number 5, use varied sentence structures. This is something a lot of people make these long, complex sentences, and you want to reduce the grade level reading. That's what they call it. I think 8th grade, whatever. But it makes it more, I guess, personal. That's an interesting thing. Again, that has to do with relevance. And then avoid over optimization. And so sometimes people they force too many keywords in there, so forth, which that's a dated tactic anyway. So you don't want to jam a bunch of keywords into any piece of content. Limit perfection. It says perfect grammar and flawless sentences can be a giveaway that this content is AI driven. Small imperfections like occasional colloquialism, minor quirks in phrasing can feel more authentic. There's a time and place to break grammar rules. You see it more in copy, less in content, but there's this whole debate about M dashes and that kind of thing. Don't be afraid to do something a little different. And your AI spell checker or grammar checker or whatever may not like. I used to fight with Grammarly all the time. It's like, no, this is exactly what I intended to do. So sometimes you got to be a little different and not so perfect. And the number 9 thing, this is all from ChatGPT. It gave me this stuff. Be authentic and transparent. And this says, if you're using the AI, be open when appropriate. Authenticity creates trust. Acknowledging you use AI adds a layer of transparency. Okay, so that's it. That's from ChatGPT. This is how to humanize your content. So that's a lot to add to go back and do afterwards if you do it. So the best thing is to put it in your prompt ahead of time. That will limit the amount of editing you'll have to do afterwards. I found this prompt last week. I put it into school content, so you've probably seen it. I dropped it in my notes today. This is a pretty good prompt because it is about actually making your content read more human. So I'll go over a few of these because I think it kind of tells you how you can humanize the content. The first one is don't blab. Well, nobody likes anybody just keeps on talking, right? Keep sentences brief and clear. Limit to 10 to 20 words. These are specific instructions. Use everyday words, easy to understand. Pick common words over complex ones. Avoid the 4+ syllable words, right? Write for 8th grade reading level. There's even a part of that prompt that says skip overused business terms and jargon. So we're used to hearing delve and dive into and cutting edge and fast pace and game changer. This prompt put a whole bunch of terms in there to not use when that's
and most of those terms are frankly overused anyway in business, and we need to stop using them to start with.
I will say this. Okay, I'm gonna make a pause here for a minute. Some of the professional people are saying, well, they hear these words. They're not bad terms. They've just been used too much. And also, it's not an indication that it was AI written. In fact, AI. Okay, here's another tool. I haven't tried this, but I've talked to a lot of people who've experimented with AI detectors. They're not very good. So reduce the temptation to use an AI detector if somebody's writing content for you. Just make sure it's humanized if they're writing it or if they're not, because AI detectors will base it on stuff that's used a lot that are good words, good terms. Oh, well, they use delve. Well, not necessarily. That person may have actually wrote it. In fact, there are copywriters who have ran content they wrote 6 years ago long before AI was public through an AI detector, and the AI detector would come back and say, "This is written by AI." Well, no, it's
And
not.
it's not.
I wrote it in
Yeah, of course.
2018. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that these prompts are a good idea to add all these different things. So if you're going to do it, and I am not a fan, like I said, of writing the 1,500 word plus article using AI. That being said, I believe you can use it. Um, one way you can use it is, and this will you have to work it a little bit, but I kind of did this when I wrote that article, 5 things I learned about storytelling from professional wrestling last year, because I was like, I need to get this up, and felt like I was getting crunched for time a little bit, so I forced myself. So what I did was recorded myself, just letting it all come out of my head. I
Yep.
used the transcript and put it in there. I made sure there was no real editing errors. What I probably should have done was had the AI to structure it better. I didn't do that, but it was me. It was still me, but I used AI to decipher it, use the transcript, and kind of clean it up a little bit. So AI helped me. It assisted me in getting that done faster, which AI can do. And I'm just like, really what you want to do as a writer is have a data dump, right? What's what we call it?
Yep.
I heard somebody call it data dump years ago. And I think it's a good term. It's like you're essentially putting everything you think about this particular subject on a page. Then you're determining what you want to talk about, what direction you want to go, and those kind of things. Those are all things you need to do before you ever start writing. And so you can speed some things up by getting it to sort through your data dump, structuring it for you. I'm still a big fan of, if you're writing that longer, what we like to call long form content, of writing it. Do the crappy first draft, right? It could be really crappy if you want. It can be a series of bullets, but write it, get it out of your head. You can use AI to essentially be your editor and clean it up and give it structure and make the sentences right. But these prompts are very helpful. The ideal of the humanizing your content, and it can be done with AI. You can use AI to help you do this and go through and so forth. It also helps to self-editing. One self-editing practice a lot of people say is read it out loud yourself,
Yep.
or get somebody else to read it. Say, hey, this is what you meant to say. And you have to go back. I've had that. Like, yeah, that's not exactly what I meant to say. I meant to say this, but it came out this. So all that to say is that when you write AI content, it has a tendency to not sound human, or parts of it not sound human. And that's why you got to go through. It can speed up the whole process, but it also can be a little robotic. So I know I've talked about the REO framework on here before. Um, just to remind you, and if you these are kind of high level points, but they will actually fill in, or they will snag most of these things we just talked about. Number one is be relevant. That goes back to who your audience is, what their pains
Yep.
are, all those things that we talked about in the prompts, and what AI talked about. You want to be relevant. You're not writing, like if you're writing to people who buy jewelry, you're not talking about AI and technologies. So you're talking to people who are buying jewelry. Jewelry customers may not be interested in something that's completely in a different field. So you got to be relevant with what you're talking about. Be engaging. A lot of this comes down to just being engaging, right? Storytelling, alliteration, similes, metaphors, using emotion, connecting, those kinds of things. And then O is original research and original point of view. Those are the two hardest things I think you can get from AI. It's
I
hard
think
to get those two
I
things.
think the research is the hard one, really, and
Yeah, I mean, you can use
because
AI to do the research, but expecting AI to insert that in there, you might tell it, I need some sources, whatever. You're going to get what it gives you. It may be a
yep,
terrible source,
yeah,
and there's a problem that a lot of us come across when we do content is we're sourcing. So I look at them like footnotes, right? even though we don't put an
Yep.
actual footnote. To me, it's like a footnote. I have gone to an article that gives me a source and some kind of data, some kind of study, whatever. And I'm like, okay, let me go look at that source to see where that comes from and how long ago it was. And then you see something that was done in 2012. And you're like, well, surely there's a newer one, or you're dumbfounded because you got a source in an article that was written last year, mind you, and you're using a source from 2012. That doesn't fly. You got to have a
Mhm.
source. That's like 10 plus years ago. You need to source within the last 2 or 3 years. That if you're doing if you're using data to do something, you need to tell people if it's more than 2 or 3 years ago. This article was written. This source, this survey was done 5 years ago. So imagine the change now. Blah blah blah. Put it in context. But the original point of view you cannot get from AI because it's your original point of view, unless there will be a time, I think, when AI will know you well enough to know what your point of view on something is, and they may put it in the
Yep.
article. We're not at
Well,
that point
I'll
yet.
stop you there for a sec. What I think happens with AI too is the more you use it. So I always say to people, standardize on one form of AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever. Because I think as AI evolves, what's happening is it's training itself for what you're asking it. So the more you use it and one platform, the more it's going to train to how you want your responses. So I think there's truth to that, Todd, actually.
Yeah, I think so. And not only that, but the big thing that came out last week about ChatGPT is the memories, and they've improved the memory or whatever,
Yep.
which is supposed to
Yeah.
be. But I can tell you, it's already pretty good. Not completely, but it's already pretty good. Like it'll remember high level stuff. Like if I go back and start talking to it, I mean, I'm logged in, so it'll go, oh yeah, you really like storytelling and blah blah blah. I can walk in, I can go into a new thread without anything other than, hey, write me a bio, and it'll do it because it knows enough about me. But if you start talking about something specific in a thread you were talking to it about 2 or 3 days ago, it probably won't remember it. But
Yep.
yes, I don't have, I am doing more with Gemini now, but I still do a lot with ChatGPT. I do a lot of discussions with ChatGPT. So, and then whenever I edit for the messaging, I tend to go to Claude because it's one of the better ones, supposedly, is what I'm told. Um, and then I use Perplexity a lot for research. Um,
Mhm.
so I like to use a lot of them, and I have a Poe downloaded on my desktop, and it uses it's one of those multi. You can use whatever engine you want to use. Um, and then I've also used U.com. They're similar. They're like multi AI engine platforms, what they are.
Yep.
And then I've played around with making some little chat bots. I haven't perfected that yet, but I have played around with doing that. And, I like to create some down the road that could be used for people who are like, oh, I need to create an about page. So here's a do it yourself first.
Yep.
Here's the access to the chat bot, or here's access to the prompt, or whatever. Um, I need to create a bio. Actually, you told me you did a bio yesterday. And so,
You did.
and I know 2 or 3 people have done it. We there's a mini course in the School of Content. And you can put that link in the show notes if you want, and somebody's interested in joining. In the mini course, which is free, is what I call a bio builder workshop. And it starts with there actually is a diagram, and then there's a worksheet with stuff for you to fill out. And then at the end of that, there's a prompt, and you can create 3 different bios: a short one, a medium, and a long one. It's not rocket science really, but I know some people struggle with it. They kind of have a little bit of like, what do I say about myself,
Mm.
etc. And it can help you. It's free. It's only in the School of Content. I like adding these little prompts. We've got a group of people who are really interested in the AI models in there, and I mean it's here. It's what we're using. You want to use it well, and the one thing I'm seeing is, you know, and I don't think this is just in the world of content, but these are other worlds. people suddenly they're experts in the thing, whatever it is, because they are using AI. That does not make you an expert in it. I would argue the experts use the AI for whatever it is they do better than the average person. They should. So you have to know what makes an AI prompt better. You have to, it's just like whenever we started coming out with web builders for websites, and every little local person said, "I'm a web designer now because I can whip a Wix website or a Weebly website." Or whatever, name the platform, GoDaddy, whatever. And it's fine, but what you learn after a while doing it is if you don't know how to hack a little CSS or PHP, get stuck pretty quick. When you're trying to do something advanced, when you're trying to make the platform do something else, and so HTML, CSS, and PHP are the underlying code for most of those platforms. I know that others use stuff like JavaScript and whatnot, but it's helpful to know how to interact with code as a web designer. So it's the same way with using. So that's why you see mediocre content coming out of AI, not because AI can't do it. It's because the people using it for AI content are not experts in the field. You got to know how to do communications. And so, anyway, I think some people are coming back to human writers because anytime you do anything that's relational, it's hard to scale that. It's just really hard to scale that. And a lot of people tried to scale content, which is not even a good tactic anymore, to be honest with you. Let's put out as much content as we can. Let's flood the market with our content. Well, what's happening is people flooding it with mediocre AI content. Nobody wants to read that. I mean, so create something worth remembering, create something worth sharing.
Yep.
So,
thank you, Todd.
I kind of on a rant today. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And I talked a little bit about humanizing your content. Much appreciated. If you want to find more about Todd, go to copyfight.com, hire him. I'm sure he's got room for a couple of new clients right now, I hear, so that would be a good thing.
Probably squeeze some.
Squeeze some in and join us in a couple of weeks for another episode. Well, thank you, sir.
My content have a great tends day. To be story driven, so people need to remember that.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day, my friend. Be well. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Todd Jones for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.